Ever feel like you're stuck at the starting line? You've got this big goal in mind, maybe a project at work, or finally getting in shape, or kicking a bad habit, but actually starting feels, I don't know, impossible.
It's a common struggle, and that's exactly what we're digging into today.
We're taking inspiration.
You are not here to survive, you're here to live on purpose. My name is Markus Spenger and I'm a high performance coach. And within this show, we're going to reflect on purpose, on clarity, on focus in your life. So enjoy this episode reflecting my content from the Bleibe Anders podcast from Austria. And if you really like the show, well, hit the subscribe button and leave also a comment there, and talk to you soon. And now let's have fun with the rest of the show.
Digging into today.
We're taking inspiration from Markus Spenger and his Bleibe Anders podcast.
We'll be focusing on why we often trip up before we even begin. And trust me, this deep dive is tailored for our listeners out there. The high achievers, the leaders, the entrepreneurs. Those of you who are all about clarity, focus, and that sweet spot of balance in life.
This one's for you.
We're talking practical strategies, those light bulb moments, and how to get things done. And by the end, you'll walk away with some serious takeaways to put into action right away.
We're going to break down those pesky obstacles that hold us back, figure out how to overcome them, and dive deep into the surprising power of, well, our habits. Sound good?
Sounds good to me. So Spenger kicks things off by pointing out two very different ways people approach, starting anything new. One is that person who just dives right in, the kind who learns by doing. He uses the example of kids,
Oh yeah, kids just go for it, don't they? No hesitation.
Exactly. They're not overthinking it. They're just curious.
Yeah.
Their main worry is like immediate consequences.
Slip and fall, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. They try, they adapt, they learn as they go. Now, contrast that with what Spenger calls the meticulous planner. And he admits he falls into this category himself, especially when it comes to his podcast. This is the person who needs every detail perfectly in place before even thinking about starting.
That makes sense. Planning definitely has its advantages, right?
For sure. Preparation helps you be efficient, avoid mistakes, all that good stuff. But Spenger highlights a sneaky danger here. Planning can become, a way to procrastinate. It's like you're busy, you're doing something, but you're not actually starting the real thing.
It's that analysis paralysis trap, right? Been there. You do all this research, all this strategizing, and it feels like you're moving forward, but you never actually take that crucial first step. I bet a lot of our listeners have been there too, putting off important things, waiting for that perfect moment or that one last piece of information.
Exactly. And Spenger brings in this really important point that adds, a bit of urgency to the whole thing. He reminds us that our time is limited. Life is, finite. Every time we delay, it's a moment we can't get back.
That's a good point. Makes you think twice about waiting for the perfect conditions.
It's not just about maybe missing out on opportunities or someone else getting ahead. It's about the risk of not having enough time to do the things that truly matter to you. So yeah, procrastination has a real cost.
So we know we need to break free from this starting block freeze. But how do we actually do that? What does Spenger suggest?
He uses a brilliant metaphor to tackle that feeling of being totally overwhelmed by a massive goal. He asks, how do you eat a huge elephant?
Okay, I'm intrigued. How do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time, of course.
Ah, clever.
It's so simple, yet so powerful. The point is to shift your focus from feeling intimidated by the whole enormity of the goal to just that very first tiny, manageable step.
So for our listeners, think about that big, maybe daunting project you've been putting off. What's the absolute smallest action you can take today, right now? It doesn't have to be a huge leap, just a beginning.
Now, Spenger then takes this idea and gives us some real-world examples. Let's talk fitness, classic example, especially around,
New Year's resolutions.
Bingo. We all know that burst of motivation, those intense gym sessions, maybe forcing yourself to go for a run in the freezing cold. But Spenger points out that for most people, especially if you're not used to working out, jumping into those hardcore workouts right away leads to, giving up.
Yeah, you burn out quickly, discouraged, and then you quit.
And what's so smart about Spenger's approach is what he suggests instead, starting super small with tiny, consistent actions. Think 10 or 15 minutes each morning of basic bodyweight exercises, like push-ups, maybe modified ones if you need to, some pull-up variations using a sturdy table, and squats. Key is consistency. keeping the barrier to entry low.
And he's got this brilliant green checkmark system.
I love that. You basically track your progress visually. You did your 10-minute workout, green check. It's not about being perfect every single day. It's about building that sense of accomplishment, that momentum.
So if you miss a day, you don't beat yourself up. You just get back on track the next day. Aim for a realistic monthly target. Like, okay, I'll do this 5 times a week.
And that visual tracking is so powerful. It's proof of your progress, even if each individual effort seems tiny on its own. And then Spenger emphasizes the importance of gradually increasing the challenge. Once you've nailed those 10 to 15 minutes consistently, then you can start upping the reps, adding some weights, or maybe incorporating those short runs he mentioned. It's about building a solid foundation before you jump into anything too intense.
So it's not about a short burst of crazy effort. It's about building sustainable habits. Now, Spenger applies this same philosophy to breaking those unwanted habits too. We're talking things like smoking, eating too much sugar, or cutting back on alcohol.
And the trick he shares here, something he learned from an Olympic athlete and their trainer, is super effective. Instead of making a big, overwhelming statement like, I'm a non-smoker now, forever and ever, you focus on a much smaller time frame. You say, okay, I'll be smoke-free today.
I love that. It breaks down this huge, scary goal into these manageable daily choices.
Yeah.
Right. And just like with the fitness example, he suggests a tracking system. This time it's green checkered X. Green check, you nail it. Red X, okay, you slipped up. But here's the important part, that red X isn't a total failure. It's just data. Tomorrow's a new day, a fresh chance for that green check.
It takes the pressure off, doesn't it? You don't feel like one slip-up ruins everything.
Exactly. This approach makes it way easier to get back on track without feeling completely defeated. And Spenger points out that you can apply this to any habit. Maybe it's saying no to that extra dessert or skipping that evening drink. It all adds up. And seeing all those green checks at the end of the month, it's super motivating.
Progress over perfection. I love it. Now, this leads us to another key insight from Spenger, how powerful habits really are. He calls them the hardest glue. It's like this incredibly strong adhesive that keeps us stuck in our old ways, even when we want to change.
And he delves into the science behind it too, talking about how our brains are wired for efficiency and survival. Every time we repeat a behavior, those neural pathways get stronger. So even if a habit isn't good for us anymore, our brain might still see it as the easiest, most familiar path.
It's like our brain saying, hey, this worked before, why change? Even when that old way of doing things is holding us back.
And breaking a deeply ingrained habit, it's tough. It's not an overnight process.
Definitely not a quick fix.
Spenger mentions some research on how long it actually takes to form or change a habit. And the interesting thing is, there's a lot of variation. Some changes might happen quickly, in just a few days, while others can take months, with the average being somewhere between 6 and 66 days.
So some things are easier to adjust to than others, and patience is key.
Absolutely. He gives this cool comparison. Think about how fast our bodies can physically adapt. You get a new dental filling or something, you might feel weird for a couple of days, but you adjust quickly. But building a new mental habit, like starting a daily meditation practice, even a short break, can weaken those new neural pathways you're working so hard to create.
So consistency is crucial, especially with those mental habits.
Spenger really stresses the importance of making that new habit a priority. If it truly matters to you, you have to treat it that way. That might mean tweaking your schedule, like waking up a bit earlier, and actively minimizing distractions.
It's about showing your brain that this new behavior is important, right?
Exactly. You're sending a strong signal. So the big takeaway about habits: if a habit isn't serving you anymore, it takes real conscious effort to break free. It's not easy, but understanding how these ingrained behaviors work is the first step to making lasting change.
Great insights. Now, Spenger wraps up with a really interesting shift in perspective. He encourages us to not just focus on the end goal, but to appreciate the journey itself.
To enjoy the process.
No matter what habit you're trying to break, no matter what challenge you're facing, he reminds us that finding joy in the process is so important.
It's not all about reaching the destination. It's about the experiences and lessons we learn along the way.
Spenger even suggests journaling to keep track of your progress, to become more aware of how far you've come, and to appreciate every step of the journey. Maybe even take a moment each morning to reflect on your progress.
What I love about this perspective is how it changes the way we look at setbacks. If you're only focused on the end goal, any obstacle can feel like a total failure. But when you value the journey, those challenges become opportunities to learn and grow.
They become part of the experience, not the end of it. Absolutely. So let's sum up the key takeaways from Spenger's Believe Anders podcast for our listeners. The most important step is often the first one, no matter how small. Break those big, scary goals down into bite-sized pieces. Use practical tools like the green check system to build momentum for good habits and tackle those unwanted ones one day at a time. Understand how powerful your existing habits are and be patient and persistent as you build new ones. And finally, remember to find joy in the process of change.
And taking a cue from Spenger's practical approach, we have a little challenge for our listeners. Today, pick just one small action step you can take towards a goal you've been putting off. Or if you're working on breaking a habit, choose one tiny change you can implement. It doesn't have to be huge, just one manageable action to get you started.
And to build on Spenger's idea of enjoying the journey, here's a final thought. What if the biggest failure isn't about not reaching a specific goal, but about not even trying at all? And what if the real success comes not just from the result, but from the consistent effort and the wisdom you gain along the way, no matter where that path might lead?
If you found these insights helpful and want to explore more ideas on personal growth and change, we highly recommend checking out Markus Spenger's Believe Anders podcast. You'll probably find a link in the notes for this deep dive.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time.
Ready to stop chasing and start living? Book your free clarity call at markusspenger.com or download your free clarity report to gain focus, build inner strengths, and live with direction and purpose. Because, life is too short to just function. It's time to lead from within. Be bold, be clear, be you.